morning sun shines on the gleaming hide of a muscular ranch horse. The aroma of bacon and coffee drifts from the wood cook stove at a cow camp. Silver spurs jingle as the men and women of the West get set for another day in the saddle. From the heart of Canada's finest ranching country, this is the Spirit of the West with rancher and horse trainer Hugh McLennan and his collection of music, poetry, and conversations with the folks who live and work with horses and cattle in the Spirit of the West.
We were sitting inside a nice brand new horse trailer that was part of a trade show display, and I was recording an interview with a famous horseman who was there to judge the event. The back door was closed, and then the trailer started moving. That'll come up today in the conversation with the guy who is known as the father of resistance-free training, Richard Shrake.
Looked at the mare and looked at me, and he took her bridle rein off and took two horsehairs out of her tail, tied the rein back onto the bridle.
And a horse that looked like he was going to the killer pen after the auction is the subject of the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight.
He's an outlaw for sure, for which there's no cure. Believe me, he ain't worth a dime.
The Rangeland News looks at everything from cattle rustling to rabid cows and this questionable practice.
Growing so-called meat products from cells.
And a very interesting question on the Urban Saddles and Western Wear horse training file. A listener has a chance to rescue a nice, unbroke young gelding. The problem is he only has one eye. What are the chances of making him a good mount? We'll have a real-life experience for that one. And you'll hear the legendary Richard Shrake and what it's like riding after having a hip replacement, after a song that just seems to pop up every year about the middle of March.
Bald eagles back in the cottonwood tree. The old brown hills are just about bare. Springtime sighing all along the creek. Magpies ganging up everywhere. Sun shines warm on the eastern slope. March came in like a lamb for a change. Gary's pulling calves at the old stampede. We made it through another on the northern range. Lonnie's pulling calves at the top of the world. We made it through another on the northern range. Well, the big Chinook blew in last week. It was warm and strong from the western sea. Pretty soon water running everywhere. Hell, it could run fast enough for me. Broodmare sleeping in the afternoon sun. She's shedding hair everywhere. Time for a change. George is pulling calves at the T-bar Y. We made it through another on the northern range. Waddy's pulling calves at the Little E. We made it through another on the northern range. Bald eagles back in the cottonwood tree. The old brown hills are just about bare. Springtime sighing all along the creek. Magpies ganging up everywhere. Sun shines warm on the eastern slope. March came in like a lamb for a change. Larry's pulling calves at the quarter circle S. We made it through another on the northern range. Alan's pulling calves at the bar for Orlock. Made it through another on the northern range. Gene's pulling calves at the Horseshoe Bar. We made it through another on the northern range. Ian's in the hills and he's trying to write songs. Kids in the country where the tall grass grows.
Ryan and Jack and Ray are pulling calves on the old 7-0. Suzanne and Bob are pulling calves on the Rafter SC, and on it goes. Well, Richard Shrake has quite a resume. creator of the resistance-free training and riding methods, trainer of Quarter Horse Congress, all-round champion horse, instructor of over 40 world champion youth and amateur winners, judge of 16 world championship shows for 5 major breeds, author of 4 best-selling equestrian educational books, advisory board member on 5 colleges and universities, teacher and clinician around the globe, and much, much more. We could go on and on. But what I was interested in was his recent operation. I understand that you had both hips replaced recently. How's that going for you?
It's going great. I'm walking and starting to ride. You know, my grandson the other day says, "Grandpa," he says, "will you ride with me?" And I had in my mind, after I got hurt and the hips replaced, I said, it's kind of the end of the trail for my riding and getting on. And you know what? When he said, "Grandpa, will you ride with me?" I got on this weekend in Missouri, or last week in Missouri, and I'm going to start riding again. So they're doing great.
Isn't that great? Now, what was there an accident or a degenerative process over a long time? What led to it?
Well, you know, it's interesting. About 12 years ago, I had a horse turn over, and he cracked my hip, which then started a degenerative process, and things got so bad that I was actually judged a horse show in Florida, Hugh, in a golf cart. And then I thought, you know, this isn't right. The quality of life. And I finally, it was 6 months ago, I got my last one done. I've got 2. And I'll tell you what, it's if there's people out there in your area that I know follow your show and enjoy your show, and maybe just us talking about this, I wasn't planning on it, but maybe it gives us some encouragement to not be afraid to go in and have a hip replacement, because I say it's great.
I have a neighbor who ranches close to our place, and in our country you can't ranch without riding. You have to have horses, and he had a problem with his hip for years and years, and riding was agony, but he continued to ride until he had a replacement. And after that, he had about 10 years of pain-free riding, and it was definitely worth it. But he said he had a dream the night before the operation that they were doing the surgery, and he woke up, and his foot was on backwards.
That's great. Well, I didn't have that happen, thank God. And so I'm just saying that is funny. But, you know, as horsemen, one of the things, Hugh, as you know, the people you're around, the people we love and we're in this business with, boy, when you can't get on, it makes it hard. So thank the good Lord that there's surgeries now that can do these things. And the end of the roundup, don't get so close. It just changes their quality of life.
And you'll hear more about Richard's fascinating background and a song from the great Dave Stamey when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. Richard Shrake and I were really getting into the conversation in the back of that horse trailer, and the acoustics were pretty good in there. And that's where we recorded this interview, and this is where we began to wonder as the trailer started moving. Take us back to the start of your concept of resistance-free horsemanship. What started it for you, and where you've taken it?
Well, you know, I was telling Billy a little bit, your wonderful wife, horse business has been great to me. All my life I've been able to be in the business. And whether it's in the training end or the instruction end or the running a public barn, horses have always been the big thing. My wife says I dream about them, think about them, talk about them, and she says sometimes I wish we could just talk about something else, but they get in your blood. And I think early in my career I saw really quick, Hugh, that when a horse likes what he's doing, he got the round peg in the round hole. You know, he's not only happy, but he can give you 150% every time. So what I try to do is do my training to where when I felt resistance and he felt unhappy and I got the red lights that said, this is really not right, it's hard for me, I found that then I would work him until it felt resistance free. And all of a sudden, he was trying and he was doing things. He was happy. Every time I got on him, he just perked his ears. He loved life, resistance free, and I got green lights. And I saw it kind of happen, especially with my futurity horses in the 70s. this little horse would jump up and win when maybe he didn't have as much talent, but because he liked what he did, he wasn't bruised, or I didn't force him into what he had to do. So that's kind of where it came from.
Now, were you raised around horses from your earliest childhood, or was it something you came into a little bit later?
Oh, I didn't really have a choice. My dad traded horses, and my grandfather bought horses in the States for the remount stallion. And his grandfather came over from Europe, and so, or my great-grandfather did. So horses have always been a huge part of our family.
I just think they hooked a pickup onto this trailer, and they're going to tow it away with us.
Wouldn't that be something, huh? Going downtown Vancouver in the horse trailer and can't get out.
Yeah, wow. What were some of your earliest...
That'd be a story to tell our grandkids, wouldn't it?
Wow.
We're doing an interview with Spirit of the West, and you and I are wondering where in the heck we're going. And
if this trailer is going down the road, I kind of hope there's a pickup pulling it.
Especially a Ford pickup, yeah. Okay.
I'm with you on that.
Well, it looked like Richard managed to get the attention of somebody before they hauled us away, but if we were going to get hauled away, I hope it would be on something like Dave Stamey sings about here.
I like a dusty road, cattle guards, cottonwoods by the stream. I like a dusty road, hills in the distance that call to me. See the horses in the morning when the air is soft and cold. If they want to find me, they can find me down a dusty road. I like a dusty road and the story it tells. Red Rock and Pinyon and all of those fences are somewhere else. Yeah, the mountain quail down where manzanita grows. If they want to find me, they can find me down a dusty road. It makes no difference if it's cold and cloudy. It makes no difference if the sky is blue. The best part of being out here is being out here with you. I like a dusty road, old corrals baking in the sun. I like a gentle breeze, long shadows when the day is done. See the cattle go to water, walking in single file. There are shapes in the clouds, you can watch them for a while. It makes no difference if it's cold and cloudy. It makes no difference if the sky is blue. The best part of being out here is being out here with you. I like a dusty road and our old bedroll on the ground. I like a campfire with you when there's no one else around. It'll be the cure anytime we need to lighten up the load. If they want to find us, they can find us down a dusty road. If they want to find us, they can find us down a dusty road. down a dusty road. Down a dusty road.
The great Dave Stamey, and we actually didn't get hauled down a dusty road. Richard Shrake did get the attention of the driver, and they left the pickup hooked to the trailer, but they let us finish the interview. And here's a little more of it.
Maybe some of your earliest recollections of the first horses you encountered in your life, what impressions they made on you, what they were like.
Oh, Hugh, you know, I can, believe it or not, they say people truly can't remember when they were under 2, but I can remember my uncle handing me up to my dad riding a buckskin mare, and she spooked. And as she started to spin and she started to do some things, one of the things I remember is that he just clutched on to me and slowed her down, and the next thing we knew, things were okay. And I remember that very clear. And then I've been very blessed. I've had great horses that have made me look good. I can remember winning the P&E on a horse called Charliewood that Ora Rhodes used to show, and Johnny Brazil, and then I came along in my stable, and we won the reining and the working cow horse there. And probably one of my greatest thrills, and I shouldn't hear I'm saying this on a Canadian show, but the guys, I think Bobby Avalon, myself, and I can't remember who the other guy was, but we won the team pennant and beat the Canadians at the P&E. And that was like winning the World Series.
Wow.
Yeah, because you guys take that pretty serious up here.
Well, some folks do, but we do have American listeners too, in Idaho, Montana, South Dakota, and Wyoming, and Texas, as a matter of fact. They'll be glad to hear that.
True story.
Coming up, more of Richard Shrake's true stories, and Baxter Black is next with another amazing one.
No, said Billy Bob, cats don't die in trees. If they did, we'd find more bones in the firewood.
It'll be Raining Cats and Dogs with Baxter Black when the Spirit of the West continues right after this.
Howdy, friends. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan, and I'll be right back after this with a little peek at Raining Cats and Dogs.
Your land is a legacy, a challenge from those who tended it before you to build on their foundations. At Corteva Agriscience, we understand what it means to be the stewards of a legacy. We embrace the challenge of building on the foundation of Dow AgroSciences to maintain your trust, to bring new solutions, to help you care for your land. See how we can help build your legacy at rangeandpasture.com.
And for our Canadian listeners, just check Corteva.ca, the Canadian website.
Now, you have no doubt heard that old saying, it's raining cats and dogs. Well, let me tell you how that saying came about. A lot of y'all don't know this. Billy Bob was sitting in the house one afternoon, cooling his heels and watching one day at a time, when his darling wife said, "Billy Bob, that dang cat done clumb up the poplar tree." Well, Billy Bob explained how cats did that to get a better view, and he'd be all right. Well, the next day the missus remarked how that dang cat was still up the poplar tree. "He's liable to die up there," she said. "No," said Billy Bob, "cats don't die in trees. If they did, we'd find more bones in the firewood." Well, on the third day, she made Billy Bob climb that tree to rescue the cat. He got about halfway up, and the branches started breaking. Them poplar trees go straight up, and the branches are brittle as a machine-made taco shell. He took a swipe at the cat, who scratched him and climbed higher. "Maybe you could shake him out," said Mrs. Well, Billy Bob tied a rope as high in the poplar tree as he could and took a dally on his pickup bumper. He jerked the tree a few times, but the cat just sunk his claws deeper into the bark. "Maybe you could bend the tree far enough over so's I can reach him," said the missus. Billy Bob put her in grandma and bore down. He bent that tree nearly double. Missus was a-bouncing on her toes, desperately trying to grab the cat when the rope broke. The last time they saw the cat, he was going out over the top of the house like a furry mortar shell. Well, half a mile away, Bubba and his sweet little daughter, Wavadine, were having a grape knee-high out by the pool behind the ranch house. "Wavadine, I'm telling you for the last time, you can't have a cat. They get hair all over everything, and they never say thank you. Now don't ask me again." As Wavadine wiped a tear from her pretty eye, Out of the clear blue of the western sky, like an Apollo space capsule re-entering the atmosphere, came that dang cat. He made a perfect 4-point splash down in the middle of the pool. Bubba looked up. There wasn't a cloud in the sky. Wave a Dean Sugar, will you look at that? Your prayers have been answered. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan, brought to you by Corteva Agri-Science.
Come on down to the Integrity Speckle Park sale at Dryland Cattle Trading Corporation in Veteran, Alberta. This sale will have 30 high-quality bulls as well as top-of-the-line purebred and commercial replacement heifers. This great offering is brought to you by Wolf Lake Speckle Park, Movin' Spots, and McAleer Ranching. The Integrity Speckle Park sale will be held on March 27th at 3:30 p.m. Come Wednesday afternoon, Thursday, or Friday morning to view the offering, and you can bid online on DLMS or by phone. Just ahead of the Rangeland news, country music superstar Brett Kissel wrote this a few years ago, and it's kind of personal for Brett. About the time his music career was really taking off, his family was right into the middle of another calving season, and Brett, for the first time in years, would not be there to help.
It's calving time, I've gotta go. My heart melts like late spring snow. When I'll be back, if God knows, He ain't gonna say. Daddy shoots a look at me. He says I'm a fool to dream a dream that breaks the hearts of so many and takes them far away from their home. The farm and from their families, loving arms. But I've got 6 strings and 8 pistons. The song I've gotta get out of my system. The bullpen door's wide open. I'm pulling out and I'm high hoping, and it makes it all the worse that I'm leaving home at calving time. It's 44 by April 1st. That ain't bad, 'cause we've had worse. I used to love this time of year, being Daddy's right-hand man. You'd always hear it soft and low, and no one could have ever known that the music on the radio would make me who I am. Yeah, right there, that's me. That's exactly where I wanna be, 'cause I've got 6 strings and 8 pistons. A song I've gotta get out of my system. The bullpen door's wide open. I'm pulling out and I'm high hoping, and it makes it all the worse that I'm leaving home at calving time. I'm gonna miss my home and the farm. I'll miss my family's loving arms. But I've got 6 strings and 8 pistons. A song I've gotta get out of my system. The bullpen door's wide open. I'm pulling out and I'm high hoping, and it makes it all the worse that I'm leaving home at calving time. But Daddy says they'll
McLennan and the Great Western Spirit Band, along with Tom Cole and friends, will be at the Lido Theater in Fort St. John, BC for 2 shows, May 22nd and 23rd at 7 p.m. The crisp, clean music of the West, great guitar picking, spellbinding stories, and lots of laughs.
Where the sky goes on forever, where those prairie winds blows the cold and hard.
Tickets available online at thelido.ca or call 1-250-785-3011. Or you can go to the Lido in person on 100th Avenue in Fort St. John.
Dream riding, dreaming my troubles away.
The Rangeland News from the Spirit of the West. A roundup of issues and events from the world of agriculture.
Right up here at the top of page 1, it says, scientists are experimenting with a new way to grow livestock in a test tube. And this project has a big controversy. It seems that if they can do it, what would they call it? And Gary Crawford has more.
Growing so-called meat products from cells like cultures is a new technology, exciting for some, threatening for others. But as companies work on the process...
The primary focus of interest right now in the cell culture world seems to be product labeling.
Oh, yes, putting Matthew Michael with the USDA's Food Safety and Inspection Service right in the middle of it. His group will play a big part in deciding what to call these new products. And there are scores of names that have been suggested. Some of them we can't say on the radio. Michael told USDA's Outlook Forum...
Just from these names, these proposed names from the public and the industry and consumer advocacy groups, you can see that there are a lot of differing opinions about this product, and there's a lot of interest in this product, and it's something.
It's something, all right. 5 of the companies working on these products have formed an alliance to work with government on what to call these products. And Penn State University sociologist Dr. Rob Childs says, obviously...
There's a lot at stake with that, and I think that all the different stakeholders recognize this.
In Washington, Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
Something a lot of us have suspected has been born out of a new study. Producing beef without implants costs more, according to a study at the University of Saskatchewan. But those animals could attract a premium depending on when cattle go to market. Janelle Smith, a master's student, said her study, which wrapped up in mid-January, found that the cost per head to raise cattle without implants increased by $60 to $140. The difference depends on the weight at which the cattle enter the finishing phase. This is simply due to increase in days on feed, which leads to about a 15% higher feed cost as well as cost of yardage, she told the Saskatchewan Beef Industry Conference. An investigation is underway now following the theft of 262 steers and heifers from a Lipscomb County, Texas ranch. The victim was Perryton, Texas rancher Bob Adcock, who has added $10,000 of his own money to the $1,000 reward offered by the Operation Cow Thief, the program operated by the Texas and Southwestern Cattle Raisers Association. TSCRA Special Ranger Ben Eggleston said the reward will be paid to any individual who provides information leading to the arrest or indictment of the person or persons responsible for the crime. He said all information is confidential. Tips can be provided anonymously by calling 888-830-2333. And folks who visited the cattle barn at the San Antonio Stock Show and Rodeo between February 11th and 14th may have been exposed to rabies. The cow, a solid black Brangus heifer, had developed rabies and was capable of spreading the virus during those dates. People who visited the cattle barn during that time period may need to be assessed for possible rabies exposure, according to the officials, because rabies is spread through the saliva. They are warning that anyone who had contact with this cow by putting their hands in the cow's mouth or nose, or who may have had any contact with the animal's saliva, should be evaluated for rabies exposure. People who didn't have that kind of contact, they say, are not at risk. The next regular cattle sale at the Williams Lake Yards of the BC Livestock Co-op is set for March 24th. Next regular sale at the Vanderhoof Yards, April 3rd, and there are a lot of special sales coming up. You can see the list at bclivestock.bc.ca. Meanwhile, out there at the Innisfail Auction Market, long-time family operation by the Danes family, regular cattle sales every Wednesday and another pre-sort feeder sale on March 23rd. And you won't want to miss the exotic bird and animal sale on April the 11th. Get all the details at InnisfailAuctionMarket.com. And as you may have heard, the Wanderin' Western Spirit Band wanders up to Fort St. John, BC for Concert 83. My little brother Jim and his amazing guitar picking and super bass player Uncle Mike, and we'll be joining up with Tom Cole and friends at the Lido in Fort St. John, May 22nd and May 23rd, 2 shows at 7 p.m. each night. Tickets available at thelido.ca. thelido.ca, or you can call 250-785-3011. Now down to the final item, and we were having coffee the other day with one of our longtime neighbors, and he came up with this. He said, "I'm working just as hard as I can to get my life and my cash to run out at the same time. And if I can just die right after lunch on Tuesday, everything will be perfect." Cowboy logic. And that's the Rangeland News. Coming up on the Urban Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File, what are the chances of an unbroke young gelding turning into a reliable mount? By the way, he only has one eye. And there's more from the horse trailer conversation with Richard Shrake when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. A young gelding had his left eye removed after an injury, and that was before he was actually started. Now, is it possible for him to become a reliable mount? You'll find out on the Urban Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File coming right up. First, though, Billy and I have spent some time reflecting on the wonderful times we've had after hosting over 1,200 people who love the Western way of life on 19 Spirit of the West cruises. After 120-some flights, over 90 hotel room visits, and through our challenges, including Billy's with radiation treatments and my journey with end-stage kidney disease, doing dialysis from Mexico to Alaska, that it's probably time for us to take a step back from cruise hosting after the next one. We have so many vivid memories and video of our members of our group ziplining in Mexico, having many memorable trail rides from Prince Edward Island to Mazatlan, walking down Broadway in New York City with the locals all wanting pictures of our cowboy hats, touring and visiting ranchers and farmers from Jamaica to Ireland, seeing the hidden treasures of Australia and New Zealand, the wonders of the Panama Canal, and so much more. And our unforgettable sing-along sessions with the Spirit of the West Choir. And we sure want to thank each and every one of you who joined us over the last 20 years. By booking with the Spirit of the West, you've helped us keep this program going all these years. Our farewell cruise called The Spirit of the West Brings It Home is coming up. We wanted to eliminate some of the hassles of long-distance travel and make it an unforgettable experience, so we'll gather you all up here at our ranch on July the 15th for a lunch and a concert with the Western Spirit Band and a special guest. From there, we go to the fabulous Sun Peaks Resort for a barbecue and sightseeing. The next morning, we all go down to the coast and we'll board the Holland America beautiful ship Koningsdam for a 7-day cruise up the Inside Passage and back. No flying required. This package includes the amazing White Pass Rail Tour and so much more. Now, this one is filling pretty fast, so if you'd like to join us, just call the number 1-800-530-0131 to reserve your spot. Deposits are refundable up until April the 3rd.
Now it's time for the Horse Training File, brought to you by Irvine Tack and Western Wear, Canada's largest Western store.
Start thinking spring with help from Canada's largest Western store. That's right, spring stock is arriving at Urban Tack and Western Wear. See what's new and start suiting up with the latest from the biggest names in the biz. Boulay, Ariat, Wrangler, Cinch, Huey, and more. Jeans, jackets, boots, shirts, hats, hoodies, it's all here at Urban's, exit 305 off Highway 2 by Crossfield, or shop online at urbans.ca.
Don't just wear it, live it. Urban Tack and Western Wear.
A promising 2-year-old Arab quarter horse gelding had to have his left eye surgically removed after he unfortunately got a stick into it and the infection became chronic. Now, this horse was not yet broke to ride when it happened. What are his chances? Well, I think a lot of us probably know about horses that have lost either the vision in one eye or one eye after they have been well broke and seasoned, and after a small adjustment, they adapted extremely well. John Lyon's famous stallion Bright Zip was totally blind for the last few years of his life, but John was still able to do just about everything with him after that he did before he lost his sight. But a colt that hasn't learned to handle a rider on his back? Well, one half of our support crew for the Spirit of the West, Kathy, is a great rider, and she started a lot of their colts, and this promising gelding was hers. Kathy and Mark came down to our place for a few days of riding the trails with us, and she brought her one-eyed colt, who had maybe a dozen rides or so by now. And after about 3 days on the trails, he was really doing well. But I noticed some interesting things that Kathy had to be aware of. Obviously, she had to always remember which side he was blind on, but when something would really stress or scare him, a standard procedure is to use lateral flexion, bend his head to the left or the right, move the rein in towards the saddle horn to untrack his hips. And that does two things. It takes his mind away from what's scaring him, and it takes his impulsion to bolt, run, buck, or whatever away. But, and this might surprise you, it was important always to circle him to the left towards his blind side. Really? Yeah, because you see, he couldn't see anything scary in that direction. Something like blindfolding a horse for a procedure. What they can't see usually won't spook them. Now, he really got used to the sound of Kathy's voice and her scent, and he was pretty trusting when she was on his left, his blind side. Now, here's the other aspect that might make you wonder. We usually get on from the left side, and she said that right from the start that was no problem for the horse. However, she had to always be ready when she swung her leg over and he could see it with his right eye. So there you have it. If you handle it properly, there definitely is hope for a one-eyed, unbroke colt. And I think we're going to be able to show you some really good live video of Kathy working with this one-eyed gelding on the YouTube version of this program. And for Urban Saddles and Western Wear, that's the horse training file. Our horses sure do well on that daily feeding of Hoffman's Horse Ration. Find out all about it at hoffmanshorseration.com. Come and see the largest selection of well-broke horses in Western Canada at the 7th Annual Top Gun Horse Sale. April 11th, high noon, at the Calnash Event Center, Panoka, Alberta. You can preview the horses Friday, April 10th at 4 p.m. They start coming through the ring Saturday, April 11th at high noon. Over 200 horses expected. Horses for ranch work, team roping, penning, rope and trail riding, barrels, mounted shooting, and kids' horses. Every type of horse you might be looking for, including loads of true ranch horses. Every horse will be ridden, driven, or led into the ring. Rain or shine, everything's inside. For information and to see the horses, go to TopGunHorseSales.com or call Jordan Dodds, 403-783-0246. For the most part, Billy and I really do enjoy winter up here at our little place in the hills. The snow is deep, the weather's cold and crisp, there's lots of chores to do outside, and the wood stove in the living room greets us at the end of the day. But when you get to this time of year, and you spend all winter in an isolated line camp, you might be susceptible to the Line Shack Blues. Here's Don Edwards.
Way up in the mountains by the timberline, there's a run-down cabin you can barely find. It's got a few provisions for a man to use, but there ain't a thing to drive away the Line Shack Blues. with promises of springtime and a winter's pay. The foreman sent me here, and here is where I'll stay. He told me about the peace and quiet and the view, but he never said a thing about the line shack blues. Ooh, I'm all alone, up here where the zephyrs and the coyotes moan. Ooh, it's lonesome too. A man could lose his mind from them old line shack blues. I'm just about as bored as a man can be. I'm getting mighty tired of my own company. I've told me every story that I ever knew. One-sided conversation got the line shack blues. Ooh, I'm all alone, up here where the zephyrs and the coyotes moan. Ooh, it's lonesome too. A man could lose his mind from them old line shack blues. I keep hoping maybe this is worth it all, if I can only make it till the April thaw. I'll tell you, partner, there's one thing I know is true. I'm never coming back to these old line shack blues. Ooh, I'm all alone, up here where the zephyrs and the coyotes moan. Ooh, it's lonesome too. A man could lose his mind from them old line shack blues. A man could lose his mind from them old line shack blues.
The great production touch of Joey Miskelon on that one from one of Don Edwards' Warner Western albums. Well, now we'll take you back into that nice horse trailer and resume the conversation with legendary horseman Richard Shrake.
Sometimes when things get a little intense and you've got a lot of things that you're working on, and maybe I've got a speech to do tomorrow night and I've got 4 or 5 demands on my time and I'm having a hard time getting focused, I'll just step on my little buckskin mare Lucky and we'll go out for a ride someplace and we'll come back 2 hours later and somehow everything just kind of falls into place.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, and I think those of us in the business have had that experience, and it's what you call that Kodak moment, you know, that you remember, and you remember the horse, you can remember the smell, the color. The Quarter Horse Association actually did a survey a couple years ago. They asked over 2,000 people what the very first horse that they came in contact's name was. 87% could remember the name, the color, and almost the smell. Now, only 23% could tell the same people the maiden name of their mother.
Yeah, but that's probably it.
Yeah, they make a big impression on us, don't they, Hugh?
They really do.
Arnold Rojas, I had him help me with a young horse one time. Never said a word. I finally got mad and I said, Arnold, I said, either you're going to help me with this mare or I am so frustrated right now. You know, I didn't probably say it in that kind of words. So he got out of his chair and he walked over, looked at the mare, looked at me, and he took her bridle rein off and took 2 horsehairs out of her tail, tied the rein back onto the bridle. Never said I was too heavy, but that was his way of teaching me I better be a lot lighter on her. And sure enough, when I did, she started to give me a lot more back.
Nothing was said. He just went in.
I had no videos, I had no books, but I'll tell you what, just what happened there changed a lot of the ways I rode.
Richard, I want to thank you so much for...
You and Billy are a legend in the horse business up here. I love the way people recognize you and come up and speak to your wife, and what an asset you've got with her. She's a great lady.
Well, we're just...
Where'd you find her?
Well, I found her on a little farm between Ponoka and Lacombe, Alberta.
Yeah? We're lucky guys, aren't we?
I'll tell you.
Good wives make good cowboys.
You know, I think that's absolutely true, and she understands my cowboy attitude and everything about me, and we get to ride together and enjoy things together in so many ways, and it does get richer.
Thank God they put up with us, huh?
That's for sure. Richard, thank you so much for doing it.
My pleasure.
And you will find a lot of helpful information and much more at Richard's website, www.richardshrake.com. Coming up in the Classic Song of the West segment, I'm betting you may not have heard this one for a while. And then Susie Knight in the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. Well, you're just in time for this week's Classic Song of the West. And a long time ago, I met the Wilkerson family, known at that time as the Rockin' W Wranglers. Fine chuckwagon group, and among their songs is one that has shared a title with a lot of other songs, but I'm pretty sure this is the original, the Rockin' W Wranglers and the Cowboy Way.
Well, when you hear that cow camp stirring at dawn, you know that cookies up and putting breakfast on. You know there's beans and biscuits, that's the usual stock. And he's wiping out those tin plates with an old dirty sock. He's got some coffee boiling in a 2-gallon pot and some bacon sizzling on a fire that's too hot. You chuck it down and hit the trail at breaking of day. But that's the cowboy way. Riding, roping, always hoping for that long trail's end. True love smile another mile to water round the bend. Pounding leather any weather, living day to day. To be the best out in the West, that's the cowboy way. Well, when it's roundup time on the high mountain range, you know there's something cowboys sure hope don't change. 'Cause it's a life that's full, open and free to every cowhand. It's just plain as can be to drive those dogies on the way to trails in, to know there's something new around every bend. The trail is long and there sure ain't much pay, but that's the cowboy way. Riding, roping, always hoping for that long trail's end. True love smile another mile to water round the bend. Pounding leather any weather, living day to day. To be the best out in the West, that's the cowboy way. To sit around the fire with the crew late at night and see their faces glowing in the firelight, telling tales of trail drives from days gone by, and hear a ghost rider still up there in the sky. Take one last look at those stars, they better turn in, because at break of day it all starts again. They all pull their share without much to say, but that's the cowboy way. Riding, roping, always hoping for that long trail's end. True love smile another mile to water round the bend. Pounding leather any weather, living day to day. To be the best out in the West, that's the cowboy way. To be the best out in the West, that's the cowboy way.
An evening spent at the hometown horse auction is always pretty good entertainment, but you often wonder what becomes of some of the horses that do go through the ring. Like this one. Here's Susie Knight in the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight, and it's one called Holdin' the Reins.
Well, he stood in the pen in the auction yard with a nervous and uncertain eye. I thought it was strange, a horse of his caliber sent here where crippled ones die. So I looked him over from head to toe, searching for some kind of flaw. He was some underfed, had a scar on his head, and one on his left lower jaw. He was nervous and skittish as I walked around. He wasn't sure what I had planned, but it was easy to tell why this horse was for sale. He'd been handled with a rough, heavy hand. He had battle scars on the sides of his mouth, the result of fighting the bit, and sores on his back from improper tack, here where the saddle should fit. As I stood in the pen, the owner walked in, said, "Pardner, you're wasting your time. He's an outlaw for sure, for which there's no cure. Believe me, he ain't worth a dime. He ain't got no sense. He'll run you right through a fence. Ones like him are better off dead. And there's no way to train that knothead to rein. As I listened to the words that he said, I remembered a poem that I heard one time. A poem about an old violin. It was taken for naught, not much worth, so they thought. And like this horse, it was in the bargain bin. Till a withered old man with wrinkled up hands and hair just as white as the snow picked up the violin and with the slightest of grin introduced fiddle to bow. It obeyed every command at the touch of his hand. Then he never missed a note. The music, so sweet, brought the crowd to their feet. Some had a lump in their throat. And what they once took for naught, now the entire crowd sought to own such a fine set of strings. The difference was made because the master had played. So it is with all other things. Whether it's horses or life or an old violin, the wise one, he understands. When good music is played, when good horses are made, it's all in the touch of the hands. So, partner, this horse that you're leaving here, the one you say is bad to the bone, before he's sold to some bidder, you may reconsider, 'cause maybe the fault is your own. And if you can't get the desired results that you want, do something more than complain. Take a deep look inside. Maybe swallow your pride, 'cause it's you that's holding the rein.
Well, thanks again for joining up and riding along, and I sure hope you can be back here next week at the same time. And as always, thanks to our support crew. That's Mark and Kathy McMillan, and as you hear this, they're up to their necks working hard at the Kamloops Cowboy Festival this weekend. And just in case you can't find those tractor parts, I bet Mark can help. Just see his page, bctractorparts.com. And if you enjoy this program, I know you'll enjoy Canadian Cowboy Country Magazine. Subscribe online at cowboycountrymagazine.com or call them at 1-800-943-7336. And I hope you can check out our YouTube and podcast versions of this show. Lots of pictures and video with the YouTube edition, and the links are on our website, hugh-mclennan.com. Till next week, I'm Hugh McLennan. Hope to see you down the trail somewhere real soon.